Welcome everyone. This reading is for Taurus for June 2026. Part of this world, present, Knight of Pentacle, future is Sun, and the outcome is Ten of Pentacles. Let me pull up a clarifier. The clarifier for the world in the past is Page of Cups, Death, Page of Swords in reverse, Fool, Justice, and Six of Cups. And for present, the clarifiers are Eight of Swords, Eight of Wands, Six of Wands, and Knight of Pentacles. For future, the cards are Four of Swords, Two of Pentacles, Queen of Wands, and Seven of Swords. And for outcome, what's the outcome for this entire month? The clarifiers are Nine of Swords, Five of Swords, Lovers, and Magician. Alright, Taurus, this is for your June 2026. Let's start with the reading. So, here we see the world. This is the first thing that strikes me here is this. No? This reading does not feel like this month something is kind of starting. This is more of something that, where things have already ended. So, the kind of the world that is sitting in your past position. And whenever I see this world, I know, whatever you were dealing with the completed karmic cycle. This isn't a temporary pause. This isn't somebody needing space. This isn't a situation that's a halfway done. So, something that kind of reached its final chapter, and that's interesting is how we got here, because this kind of begins with this Page of Cups. I feel like the Taurus has genuinely opened their heart to something. Now, for some of you, this is a relationship, or for others, it's kind of a dream. For this is a more of a future plan. Saying that somebody kind of entered a connection with a genuine openness. The Page of Cups is not somebody protecting their heart. It's somebody willing to explore, willing to believe, and want to see where things go. There was a sense of innocence here, and there was hope, and there was emotional curiosity linked up to this connection. And I honestly feel Taurus Taurians saw potential here. Not necessarily a fully formed relationship, but definitely a potential. You were emotionally invested in this, about wondering what could this become, but then the energy of the death is kind of interrupted it, and it what strikes me here is that how early the death card kind of appears here. But it almost feels like the connection ended before there was a chance to become what it's supposed to become. So things were still developing, feelings were still there, and the story was also still unfolding. And suddenly everything kind of changed. Now, here is the part I think the audience struggled with most, because I think I don't think the end came with a proper explanation. I don't think you got a closure or you got the complete truth. Things were left unsaid here, the questions left unanswered. So that's why the connection kind of remained in your stuck energy. Because when people understand an ending, they grieve it. And they don't understand an ending, they keep kind of revisiting what is happening. It's a mental loop that kind of goes on. So that's exactly what I see Torian doing, going back mentally, replaying conversations, replaying memory, trying to understand what exactly happened, trying to understand what things, why kind of things changed, why things changed, trying to understand whether something could have been done differently. But eventually, it feels like the moment you stopped waiting. This feels like the moment you kind of said, I cannot spend my whole life standing at the closed door here. So you just kind of started walking, not because you were healed, not because you had no other choice, but not because you fully understood, because you kind of had no choice. And what the beauty is that justice kind of follows here. The moment you started moving forward, the universe started becoming balancing, the energies kind of started shifting. So you release control and start being correcting yourself. And we see that in finally the card in the past here is the Six of Cups. Because despite everything, the person you were connected to never completely leaves your heart. There is no sense of bitterness. There is no hatred here. Only see memories, significance, and a lot of nostalgia. And you see them as somebody who kind of mattered. And you're carrying those memories into the month of June. So let's talk about your current energies here, the present state. At present, we see that you're at the Knight of Pentacles energy. So this is more of you saying that I'm done with the game. I cannot deal with that inconsistency. I don't want to do, take a look at that uncertainty. If somebody wants to be in your life, let them show them, let them show it through their actions. And honestly, I kind of love that energy because, you are no longer interested in fantasy, you want reality. But immediately, what we see right here is the Eight of Swords. This tells me that, even though you're trying to move forward, mentally you're still carrying this person. You're still wondering, you're still questioning, you're overanalyzing everything. The part of you wants to move on, but the other part of you won't let go. So you still want that understanding. You're kind of feeling trapped here, and you sense everything has changed. There is Eight of Wands here. Now, this is where the reading gets exciting. Because of this Eight of Wands, it breaks the stagnation. Silent does not stay silent, and the distance is not does not stay distant anymore. The energy starts moving. There is a scope for communication, movement, some sort of action, and something that was kind of frozen starts moving. And what's interesting is it is followed by the Six of Wands. There's a recognition, validation, being acknowledged, or you being finally feel appreciated, and you'll receive something that you haven't received before. It's almost like the person who wouldn't see your value before suddenly starts seeing it, or perhaps the circumstance finally kind of reveals what was kind of hidden. But then something about this kind of brings you back to the Knight of Pentacle energy. So, because you don't lose your mind, you don't jump, you don't immediately surrender. You're more likely to like, you see the effort here, and you want to see the consistency. And honestly, that's exactly what should be happening right now. See, this is where we kind of started, and this is where again we are coming back. Now, moving into the future energy, I have the Sun, which is represented for the future, and one of the most beautiful card in the deck. But because Taurians, this reading kind of begins with the sort of a confusion here, the kind of an ending, and too many things happening. So everything kind of uncertainty eventually becomes obvious. And how do we get there is something we see through Four of Swords here. There's a healing, rest, reflection, and nobody forcing anything, chasing or pushing things. We also see there is Two of Pentacles. This kind of feels very much like somebody's trying to decide which role you invest, do you trust, do you want to rebuild, or do you want to walk away. You're still weighing the process happening here. But then we also see Queen of Wands. So this is where you completely start transforming. At the beginning of this reading, you are looking for the answers here. So now you know your worth, there is a sense of magnetism that you have, and you have the power, and you are somebody who are attractive. So because you finally remember your value, we also see the Seven of Swords here. This feels like a caution. This feels more of a strategy. You don't automatically get access anymore, something that you want to say this person. You don't automatically, get your vulnerability. And honestly, after showing everything in the past, That makes complete sense here. And the outcome here we see is Ten of Pentacle. This is not a casual outcome, not a fling, not a situationship, no more confusion. It is that you can build, where you can, whether you can create any sort of stability, whether it become something lasting. And but before you reach to this, there's one final challenge that you have to deal with. That's represented here. So Nine of Swords, Five of Swords, and rest of the other things. So here, these two cards, they talk about the fear, the hurt, and the memories, also the trust issue, the scar from whatever happened before. So those don't disappear overnight. And we also see the lovers here. This actually talks about this is actually talks about the actual choice. It's not about the fate or destiny, it's the choice, a conscious decision that you have to make. Is it about, do we move towards each other or do we move apart? And what follows the choice is the magician card here. Here we see that it's also about, the magician is mostly to deal with the action, manifestation, the kind of creation that somebody has potential towards, or turning something, the potential into the reality is what we see. So the connection that kind of had ended before, it kind of fully develops, whereas it is leaving you confused, emotionally attached after a period of separation and a movement. And the kind of recognition kind of returns, and clarity kind of replaces the confusion here. You will regain your power. You will kind of understand what needs to be done here. The future energy, we still see that. And also, and a serious long term opportunity does arise here. But only after you be able to make a very clear choice, a decisive choice, something that helps you to move beyond your fear, hurt, and the past circumstances. So, Taurian, you're not no longer asked to understand the past. You have been asked to decide what kind of future you want to create. So, the world here tells me about the kind of chapter. It's already completed itself. Also, the sun here, we see that the clarity is coming, and the choice that you have to make here from the Lover's card. This talks about, tells me the choice is approaching, and kind of magician here reminds you that you have power over the outcome, then you realize. So, if you have been stuck, if you have been feeling stuck, you have been waiting for answers, if you have been wondering whether things will start moving again, and this month, June, feels like the month where the energy finally begins shifting. They trust what is being revealed, trust what is leaving, and also whatever is returning. Have faith in it, but the most importantly, you have to trust yourself to make a choice. So I would love to hear from you in the comments below. Let me know what part of reading resonated with your situation, because I genuinely enjoy reading your story and seeing how these energies play out for you in the month. If your cards may show the path, but it is your choice that creates the journey. And if you enjoyed this reading, do not forget to share and subscribe to this channel. It really helps support the growth of this community and allows me continue bringing these monthly readings. Thank you very much for spending your time with me today. Taurians, I appreciate each and every one of you. Take care of yourself, stay grounded, stay blessed. I'll see you in the next reading. Until then, take care from Shelo Mystics.